Pumas squad for the Rugby Championship, folks. It's been out for a few days now. My voice, thankfully, is pretty much back to normal. So, well, not quite, but almost there. So, we can talk about the squad. It's only kind of minimal in the changes. And, we'll go through the fixtures as well. It's not too long away, the Rugby Championship. So, International Men's 15s is back on the horizon for those of you who are kind of hankering for some after what was a pretty exceptional July. The front rowers are largely the same with the addition of prop Santiago Medrano. I feel like he was with the Argentinian 15 that did a couple of games over in Europe, but I would need to double check that. But essentially, the Argentinians had two squads playing throughout July, so anyone you've heard of who wasn't with the Argentinian main squad was probably with the Argentinian 15. Most of them anyway. So, I mean, Cheika definitely keen to get game time for as many guys as possible with one team or the other. So it's Creevy, Montoya and Ruiz. The hookers, I mean, Socino has kind of been there or thereabouts as well, but I think he's one of the guys who's been carrying a bit of a knock, so maybe not considered. Gallo, Kodela, Sclavi, Chetas Chaparro, and Vivas are the props with the addition of Medrano, who is one of the guys on the board. So, Medrano's a good guy to have coming in. He's one of the ones who was kind of affected with the Juarez. I mean, many guys were affected by that, but he's kind of yet to find, I don't think, a long-term home yet. He was with the Force for a season or two, and now I think he's over in Europe. I think he signed for Worcester, so we'll see how he goes up in Europe. Locks, Alemanno, Kremer, Lavanini, Paulos. The one interesting call, and he's on the board, but I put an asterisk there, Guido Petti. He's, technically not been named in this initial squad, but this is just the squad, as far as I'm aware, to play the Wallabies. So Petti is not dropped, he's just kind of rested. So he's out of the squad, but for the reason of giving him a bit of time off. I mean, that's a big thing on Michael Cheika's agenda, is to keep these guys kind of fit and fresh. Like, he's not been training them every day because he knows these guys don't really get an off season the way the Juarez being disbanded, or essentially, I mean, they're still there in the South American competition, but from Super Rugby they're disbanded. There's not that kind of break between Super Rugby Championship, after the November games until the start of Super Rugby, that like the New Zealanders and the Aussies get off. That break doesn't exist anymore. So Cheika is making sure these guys who play rugby throughout the year are at least getting a bit of a break. He's not training them as much, so rest seems to be a big thing. So Petti is rested. That was a long-winded way of saying that, wasn't it? Loose forwards, Bruni, Juan, Gonzalez, Grondona, Isa, Matera, and then they've also added Oviedo. So that's another body added to the lineups. There's none of the loose forwards who have left, so it's just another guy to add to the mix, and I don't think it's an area Argentina is exactly struggling, but well done to Joaquin Oviedo for getting a call-up. For the backs, there is a couple of guys who were carrying knocks, weren't they? I mean, I should have mentioned Montoya. Montoya missed the last game with a back complaint. He's kind of back fit. And then a bunch of the backs. Kubeli, one of the halfbacks, he was carrying a knock. Didn't play any of the games in against Scotland. Remember, they ended up calling up Bertrano. He's still named. Sanchez, who went off in the first game injured, he's named. Ura Projeto, who didn't get any game time because of injury, he's named. And then Santiago Cordero also picked up a knock. All these guys are named. So these guys are either fit or on the cusp of coming back to fitness, which is, again, a bit of good news. But Gonzalo Garcia is one of the guys, halfbacks-wise, who's out. I think he's got a shoulder complaint, so he's obviously not going to be fit in time, so he is out. But Bazan, Kubeli, and Bertrano are still there. So you've still got three halfbacks. Carreras, Sanchez, Ura Projeto, like I mentioned. Although Carreras is the only one who got much game time, with Sanchez and Ura Projeto having knocks. Remember, Choco Bares was initially named in the initial squad, but he's had like knee surgery, I think it was. So, he's not going to be there. Midfielders-wise, Cinti De La Fuente, Orlando, and Moroni are there. That's pretty steady as she goes. But then they've had the addition of, I forgot to write him down, Lucas Mensah as well. He's another addition to the squad who wasn't there before, but Delhi, I've got him now, look at the wrong column. Mensah's in, Delhi is out, but for the same reason as Petty, he's kind of out with a rest. So, yeah, it's an interesting one because I don't think Delhi had that much game time, but like outside of the Argentinian setup. But yeah, so still Correro, Imhoff, Malia, Boffelli, and Delhi getting a wee rest. So it's not real wholesale changes like I mentioned. It's very much keeping things as steady as possible, bringing a few guys in. I mean, these guys, I think Oviedo and Mensah, are they either uncapped or very low on caps? So, it makes sense. Petty is certainly a workhorse who's gotten a lot of game time, so I can understand him getting a wee rest. Some of the other guys who've had long seasons abroad, like Montoya's played a lot of games, Leicester Tigers, but he's not seemingly getting a rest, but I guess he's the captain. So it's a bit of a different position just to rest him, and he did get a short rest by missing the third game of the Scotland series. So, there's a few other guys who they said are kind of carrying injuries. Bello, Socino, like I mentioned, Chocobar, as I mentioned, Mateo Carreras, Tomas, Albornoz, all these guys have got some kind of knock one way or the other. So, for whatever reason, not in consideration. And they got one development player in the squad, Salta Eliseo Morales, as a development player. Don't know anything about Salta, but I know the Irish do that as well, getting a development player in the mix to kind of see how things go with the senior side. So, yeah, well done. So, fixtures-wise, 2 home games, I think, against the Wallabies are going to be absolutely crucial. If Argentina is going to have any kind of successful campaign, I don't know what a successful campaign looks like for the Pumas because they're going to be the least favoured side. But, a win or 2, I think, at least. The Wallabies at home are certainly the place to do it. Away against New Zealand, although the New Zealanders are kind of a wounded beast at the moment, and you might fancy your chances against them, I still think is a pretty tough prospect. Argentina have never done it over New Zealand in New Zealand, and have only got 1 win against New Zealand in their history, but all kinds of history has been broken recently. So, 2 games against the Wallabies, you're at home, and Cheika with the inside knowledge of the Wallabies guys, if there's a time to get it done, that's it. And then home and away against the Springboks. Obviously, you target the 3 home games as your key ones and see what you can do on the road. So, we'll see how the Pumas go. You guys let me know your thoughts. There is a bit of mixing and matching with the squad, but it's largely the same lineup. As I mentioned, there's a few guys carrying some knocks and niggles, but Cheika is doing his best to seemingly kind of manage the wear and tear from these guys playing a lot of rugby and not having kind of a full off-season with so many of them having to go start their pre-season when a lot of these other guys would be kind of in their off-season if they were at the Juarez, like the days of old. But anyway, I'll stop rambling. You guys let me know your thoughts on the squad. And I should have mentioned Miotti is not named. I just remembered him. He wasn't named in the initial squad. He was a call-up, but he's seemingly been kind of released again. So, yeah. Anyway, you guys have any thoughts? Talk to you again soon. Ta-da.